Hello, welcome back to the Games Kingdom. My name is Carl King and today we're going to be looking at Crimson Keep. This is a new game that's being self-published and crowdfunded shortly in 2025, and it is a tower defense set collecting strategy game for 1 to 2 players, and you are one of 2 clans who are racing to summon a dragon and rule Calrath Imur, a mysterious island set in the middle of the boiling sea. So you'll be working to build your keep, harry your opponent with attacks, and discovering runes to summon the fabled dragon. Once summoned, you will engage in an epic final battle to see who will become the ruler of Calrath Imur and maybe beyond. So, what do we have inside the box? So I've been playing and I'm sort of part way through a game, so we'll show you where I'm up to shortly. So each player gets one of these combat rune boards where you will put your rune tokens as you discover them. I'll show you my board shortly, but when you're playing the AI they don't get one of these boards. And here you will see the back of the box. Very nicely detailed, shows all of the components and what sort of things you can expect to get if you back and the game gets delivered to your door. We've got a very nicely printed rulebook which we'll have a look through later. So this is my player area. As you can see here, I've begun to collect some runes. I've played some cards from my hand and from the keep, or into the keep, and also we've just completed the first battle of the game. So those are the battle cards that, or some of the battle cards that you get. Each player gets 4 of those and you get to choose which one of those you want to play. What you do is you get to build up your keep area in these first 3 columns. So they are 3 columns wide and 5 rows high, so you can have a keep of 15 cards. You've also got some other cards that you can play, so you've got some sort of warriors and monsters that will do combat and battles out on the board against your opponent. And whilst you're doing that, your opponent is also trying to build up their own keep and put their own monsters and attack minded people and cards out onto the board to remove some of your cards so that they can build their keep and also obviously summon the dragon for the main final epic battle. So your dragon will go where that monolith symbol is, and basically you'll bring your cards in and you will place your dragon into that 4-card space if you are the person who is doing that summoning. Now, if you win that final battle, fine, you win the game, but at the same time your opponent is going to have a chance to defend against those attacks, and if they defend against a set number of them, then they will win the battle instead. So when you do this epic final battle and you think, oh, this is the time to do it, you've got to be sure, or fairly sure, that you are going to win, because losing means losing. So you've got to be very careful and judge the right time to bring out that dragon, summon it at the right point, at its right strength, because there are 3 potential strengths of the dragon that you can have. So a 12, a 16 or a 20 point dragon. Then those dragons, obviously the stronger they are, the more chance you are of winning the game, but the longer it will take you to get to that point, and your opponent may jump in. If you're trying to get to a 20, they may jump in at the point of 16 and sort of trigger that epic end of game battle themselves, and they may well be attacking you instead of you doing it the other way around because you've waited too long. As you see here, we've just had the first battle in the game, which I managed to win, although the dice were the same. We both rolled a 5. My battle tactics card said for every card in my hand I add +2 to my total. So as you can see there, I've still got 2 cards left, so that added another 4. They didn't have any bonuses because for every card placed in their barracks or caverns they added +1. They haven't got any cards in those areas at this point of time, so I won that 9 to 5. Now normally that would mean that their card would be destroyed and mine would also be put into the discard pile, but because my special ability on the card says that if it wins, rather than being removed, it stays on the battlefield and flipped. So basically this is currently an active card, so what we do is we flip that back over and that now becomes the same card but inactive, and it can only attack again when it is made active once more. You can't do that on the same turn as you've just fought, so that would be a action for another turn, but the opponent's card is removed from the game because obviously that particular creature stroke warrior has been defeated in the game. So what do we do? What actions can we take? Well, as you can see here on the player board, or on the main board I should say, there are two areas, one for each player to use and utilize, and these are the 7 actions that you can take. You can take 2 actions per turn, so you can either place or replace a card, you can flip a card or draw a new hand of cards, so you would draw 5 cards, keep 3, discard 2, and that every time you draw, that's what it means, unless you get something that tells you to take a single card, draw meaning 5 and keep 3. And then you can also play a special ability or do a battle, and you can move. Now moving is the only way that you get to move these cards along, unless again there's a special ability that when you flip the card, as in this one, because when I flipped it, it was initially here, this card says moved next to an enemy combat card on the battlefield and attack. So that was sort of like an extra move simply done by using the flip action, and you turn over the card, and if it has got an immediate sort of ability that you use, it comes in then. Otherwise you will wait, you will use that ability, but once those abilities are used, the card then becomes inactive again. As you can see here, for each of these actions there is also a track with a marker on it. Every time you do that particular action, you move those markers 1 space forward. Now on those you can see obviously that I've done some actions already, but what happens is when you get to the end, so if I was to do this action next and you get to the end, you would get to do that particular action for reaching the end. So you can place a combat card or draw 1 new card into your hand. Once you've chosen what you're going to do, your token is removed from that particular area and is put back to the start of the track, and then again you can start to bring that forward again by doing those actions later in the game. So basically you keep moving up the track each time you do an action, and then you get to the end, you get the bonus action, and you move back to the start. If you do the same action twice in your turn, you still only move the token once. So if you were to flip 2 cards, you would still only move that token once, not twice. So there is some benefit from choosing 2 different actions, because if I did a flip and a place, then I would also, as I've just done there, I would move the top track along as well. And that's the way of keep going to the end, and you've got to sort of choose between these actions each turn to be able to bring your cards out into play to build up your keep. Building up your keep is the way that obviously you will sort of defend against attacks and by the dragon. And yeah, you've got to sort of utilize your hand as they come out, so there is a bit of luck of the draw of what cards you get. As I say, you're going to get 5 cards per turn. You put this card, which is just your banner symbol, you put that on there so your opponent can't see the next card that's going to come into your hand, just as a way of sort of keeping that a little bit secret, so they can't see that next turn, or if he does a draw, he's going to get a specific card into his hand, and that could be quite advantageous for your opponent to know what's going on. So that's just a way of keeping that secret. And then obviously you've got the 4 battle tactics cards, as we showed there. We've had that one out, and then you've got 3 others, and you get to choose which of those cards you want to play. The AI player also has a deck of those, but they don't use their cards up in as such that once you've played it, it goes into your barracks and you have to play a different card for the next battle. They get to keep all of their cards, and you just shuffle the deck, and if that card comes out again next time, then that's what they use. Their turn is a bit different to yours. Their first card is picked from their hand based on the flipping of this particular token, and it's got a lowest and a highest side. You flip that, and depending on what that comes down to, you can see that there are some numbers on these cards. So there is a number 30 and 37. If it was flipped and the lowest number came out, you would play number 30, and vice versa, you would play 37 if it flipped onto the higher number. You play that card either onto your own player board, if it's one of the cards that just goes onto your player board, or it is a card, if it's a card that goes out onto the main board, you would put it out onto the main board. And when you play cards onto the main board, they always go out as inactive. So you have to do the flipping action to make those cards active. And then the second action for the AI player is always done by utilizing this deck, and you will keep drawing cards until you can do one of the actions on the card. You will do that action, whether it's putting more cards out, drawing cards, or combat, or whatever the card might tell you to do. That is how your second action for the AI player is done. And you keep playing these turns until someone gets to the point where you're going to have that big battle at the end with the dragon, and one of you will win the game. So that's a basic quick overview and a look at what you're going to get. You also get a couple of nice reference cards. So this is the sort of double-sided card, and I've put them both out here so that it's easier to read, because you obviously are going to see just one side, but obviously on the back of this card you're going to have the same as on the flip side of that card. So yeah, Crimson Keep, a nice little game. It's playing well solo so far. I think there's been some improvements to the rules since I've got this copy. There's going to be an additional track at the bottom of your board where you can alter the values of the dragons, so that you can potentially bring them in still at a higher number, but potentially a bit quicker. So just have a check out of those. There is a listing on BGG, but you will also find things on Facebook if you type in Crimson Keep as a search. We did say we'd have a quick flick through the book, so we will do that. So as you can see here, this is a picture of the boiling sea. You've got your obligatory list of components and some fluff about the game and the background, setting up the main player areas, and then you've got some sort of key actions and words and what they mean to you and your opponent, and a bit about that sort of track that I spoke about earlier, the action track. You've got how you use your discovering rune boards, because that is how you're going to determine how your dragon is powered up, by collecting runes. And then obviously the dragon's strength and whether you choose to summon the dragon at a certain point. You've got details on how to perform a battle and the battle outcome, including things like what you do with the cards once they have been played and who wins. You've got the setup in the middle of the board, as I showed you, of the dragon, and then what happens. As you can see there, the opposing player there has got their keep nicely built up. And then you've got some pages dedicated to each of the cards or main cards in the game, and they show you basically and tell you what those cards do and how you can use them. You've got the combat cards, which are exactly the same. You've got those sort of listed and shown. So that was the one that we battled against, the Morgulf Troll. You've got your cavern cards, which will also give you special abilities once you get those out onto your player board area. So you've got a place there for your cavern cards to go. You've got the rules for the AI player, Kai, and it tells you how to set all of that up how they battle, which is slightly different than if you're doing it as a player-to-player, human-to-human game, and also shows you about the final battle. And last but by no means least, on the back of the rulebook is something that every rulebook should really have, and that is a sort of rundown and a breakdown of how the game works, actions, and some sort of general sort of things to help you play the game more easier, and put that on there, and you don't have to keep flicking through pages and pages of rulebooks, because it's all listed in one handy area, and you could sort of photocopy that and give a player each a copy. So yeah, maybe that's something to sort of include in the game as well, but as long as it's on the back of the book, that should be fine. And yeah, the components are great, the tokens are lovely, the card artwork is fantastic. This is a prototype, but these boards are just as if they had come in a brand new box and you bought it in the shop. Fantastic. If this is the quality that is produced, then you're going to get a very nicely done, very nicely produced game. And as this is being self-published, you know, Nicholas, who has devised this game and is getting it to hopefully crowdfunding, has done an excellent job so far just by doing this. You know, I've seen some where you get sort of just like printed pieces of paper stuck together with sellotape, but this is a very professional job, and as I say, if this is what you're going to get, then you know you won't be disappointed. Don't expect it to be hugely sort of massively priced, to be honest, but you know, I'm sure it will be nicely done and affordable, and this is going to be a nice little sort of filler game where you can sit and play for a couple of hours, sort of an hour and a half to 2 hours is the recommended game time. But yeah, so far I've been playing for about 35-40 minutes, and we've got to this point where I've just done the first battle. There's quite a few cards out on the board, and yeah, so far so good. So I'll keep playing, I'll do a written review, that'll be up online within the next week or two. If you like what you see here, then check it out online. Sign up for the sort of advance notice on the crowdfunding sites. Check it out on places like social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Board Game Geek. And until we see more of this, or we do another one, it's bye for now.